Those of you who follow me on Instagram will know that I've been working as a product specialist for almost a year now. And when I made the announcement on Instagram about 10 months ago, I had lots of questions about what exactly I do, what does my day-to-day entail, how I got the job, and any advice that I have for anyone who wanted to transition into this role. So I decided that I should make this video to cover all of that and more. For those of you who don't know, I've been working in tech for about 3 years now, and specifically at Microsoft. I started my career as a technology strategist and actually came through the graduate program. In my first role as a technology strategist, I was essentially responsible with supporting my customers with their technical strategy and helping them to execute it. So it was an account management role where I sat alongside an AE, an account executive, but I was more focused on the technical side and the strategy side rather than just relationship management. I was essentially considered like the technical door to Microsoft for my customers, and I was a generalist at the time, so I was expected to have a little bit of knowledge across the entire Microsoft suite to help my customers to execute all and any of their projects that was related to Microsoft products. So I did that job for about 2.5 years or just under, and then I decided that I was kind of finished with the role. I wanted to move on to something else. I had really enjoyed being so customer facing, but I was kind of done with being so generalist. With being generalist, you spend so much of your time working on everything, and there's lots of variety, which is great, but I really wanted to be in a role where I could get my teeth into something, really learn a specific technology. And so I decided I was done with the generalist role and it was time for me to move on. And that was when I started my job search for this role. I wanted to be in something that was still customer facing, still non-coding, have more direct impact, and then focus only on one technology. It's really normal for people at Microsoft to move roles every about 2 to 3 years. So my manager at the time was super supportive of my move, and she helped me to look at all the jobs that are available at Microsoft at the time. And after all the research that we did, and this took a little while, probably a couple of months, I decided that the specialist role was the one that ticked all the boxes. So it allowed me to stay in a non-coding role. So I had to be more technical, but definitely not as technical as development, which was great. It allowed me to stay customer facing, it allowed me to have more direct impact, and of course I would only be working on one technology. The specialist role also gave me the opportunity to earn more money because the bonus potential was much bigger than the ATS role, which of course is always a plus for me. After deciding to go for the specialist role, I only just had to decide which technology I wanted to go for. I decided to go for Azure specifically because it is the area that interests me the most, and also the cloud specialist role is a very strategic one both inside and outside Microsoft. So I was really thinking about the trajectory of my career both internally and externally. It was then time for me to actually make the move, so I had to start applying for and interviewing for cloud specialist roles across the business. I really wanted to give myself the best chance of getting this role because I actually really wanted it. So before actually putting my applications in for the jobs, I decided to take some time to look through the job descriptions and the requirements. So I literally jumped on the Microsoft Careers website and looked through all the Azure Specialist roles. And I also did it for external companies just to make sure that I had the full view of what would be required for me for this role. And one thing that definitely stood out for me was that a lot of the roles required you to have done the Azure Administrator examinations. And so I decided to take that time before actually putting in my application to study for my certs. And this took about 4 months, so quite a long period of time. So from deciding to get the job to actually getting it, it took quite a bit of time, so that's something that you definitely have to be prepared for. But yeah, I took my Azure Administrator exams. I failed the first time, but luckily the second time I passed, and then I finally felt like I was ready to actually start applying for the jobs. In the end, I ended up interviewing for 2 roles across the business. So one for financial services and one for the education team. And I ended up being offered the education one, which I was really happy about. And it just made the most amount of sense because I'm obviously really passionate about getting people into tech and the role that education has to play in that. So it meant that I could kind of merge this platform with my professional work, so my job. So just the perfect role for me, really. And honestly, I didn't know that much about financial services, so that probably wouldn't have worked out that well. So now that I'm in the role, my job as an Azure Specialist is to increase the usage and consumption of Azure across my customers. And that essentially means having to specialize in the technology and help my customers to adopt it. This is a technical sales role, so I'm responsible for one-to-one meetings with my customers, go-to-market strategy for Azure, any sales campaigns, and essentially anything that's Azure related goes through me first as the product lead. My day-to-day looks like a lot of meetings, so meetings with my customers, meetings with my internal team, meetings with any Azure partners, and essentially putting everything together, orchestrating everything to ensure that my customer is supported on their Azure journey. Before the pandemic, I would be traveling up and down the country to go see my customers, to attend conferences and events, and I actually really enjoyed it, to get the opportunity to kind of just see different parts of the UK that I would never have gone to before, and obviously got to stay at some really nice hotels, everything paid for, free food and stuff like that, and I'm really enjoying obviously being remote. That comes with its benefits, but I really can't wait until we can be a little bit more hybrid and I can go out and get back to traveling again. I really think that this is a great role because at the end of the day, it's a really good intersection between technology and business. I get to work on kind of both sides. I have to have my technical knowledge, but I still get to work on kind of strategy and the business elements with my customers. Not to mention that the Azure Specialist / cloud role in general is really hot at the moment. Like I said, it's quite an in-demand strategic role, not only at Microsoft, but also externally. So if I decided to leave, I could go work at Google, I could go work at Amazon, I could go work at Oracle, I could go work in a number of different areas because obviously cloud is a big strategic vision for many companies, but then also just kind of the solution specialist area. If I didn't want to stick to pure Azure or pure cloud, I could go be a solution specialist in different areas. So I could be a Salesforce a solution engineer, or a Cisco systems engineer, or something like that's related to what I do right now. Anything that's related with selling technology, I'd have kind of the requirements and the experience to go into. However, this is definitely not an easy role. It is definitely challenging. As the product specialist or the product lead, you are the face of the product for the customer. So if they have any questions, if they have any challenges, if they need any support for that product, it's essentially on you to make sure everything runs smoothly. And also, as a reminder again, it is a sales role. So you have to kind of have some sales acumen. You have to be driven by number. You have to be comfortable with being responsible for the sales and number as well. So that comes with its challenges and something that you definitely need to be prepared for. My first piece of advice for anyone who's looking to get into this role would be to get some product knowledge. So pick a product, a technical product that you would like to sell, and then use websites like YouTube, Coursera, Pluralsight, Udemy, whatever platform you'd want to use, and start getting a really deep understanding of that product. Once you started getting some of that knowledge, I would definitely advise that just starting to take your certifications. Find out the ones which are necessary for the product that you want to go into. So whether it's Azure, GCP, AWS, Salesforce, Oracle, whichever one that it is, start studying and start taking your certifications. So it starts off at the fundamentals. So for Azure, it would be AZ900, but then take it a step further and go up to the next level. So whether it's administrator, associate, architect, whatever it is for the technology that you're in, because the fundamentals are just not enough anymore. They used to be, I would say, maybe 3 years ago, 4 years ago when I started, a lot of people, were starting off with the the Azure 900, and everyone was like really excited by it and it was really good, but it's just not enough anymore. Too many people have those certifications. If you really want to stand out, and frankly, to be in the role that I'm in, you have to take the next level, which would be the administrator, which is the 104. So once you've got that product knowledge, I would advise now looking at work experience. So looking at things like business development representative, sales development representative roles, because those are kind of the entry level tech sales roles. They'll focus more on new business and have different requirements to kind of the product specialist role, but they're a great way to get started on your tech sales career, because most companies will take people at entry level or graduates or career changers or whatever. And so that's a great way to kind of get your foot in the door and start getting that tech sales experience. It goes without saying that make sure that your resume and your LinkedIn are definitely on point. Make sure that you focus on your sales experience, any that you may have in the past, and of course your product knowledge. Make sure your resume is short, it's clean, and it's to the point, and of course matches the requirements that are in the job description. So once you've kind of done some work experience, maybe you've done some sales development representative roles or business development representative roles, and you kind of want to move into kind of more inside sales and more product specialist roles, I would definitely advise starting to do some networking, starting to think about how you can really step yourself up from new business and focus more on kind of this area that I'm in. And that's the best way to do that, is to focus on reaching out to recruiters, reaching out to people who are in the role like myself to kind of discuss, do as much networking as possible, and really just try and make sure that your profile fits again the role that you're looking for. If you are at university or about to graduate, then my advice would be to go for internship and then also a graduate program when you finish. Microsoft has a big graduate program which hires into software sales, which actually has a number of roles. Well, that's it for today, guys. I hope you found this video about my current job useful, and I hope you find the advice that I gave really useful as well for you to get started. Please go like, comment, and of course subscribe, and I'll see you at my next video. Bye.